Hey everybody, it's Richard with the Hunter-Gatherer Society, and I think back there you can see my faithful companion Dozer. We are out going to do hopefully a little camping tonight, little stealth camping. We are in some public water, sorry, you distracted me because you just got in the water. Public land, and following a little horse trail along the water here. This spot that we're in is real close to the road, so we're going to keep moving on, although it is a beautiful location. We are going to move on. Doze, come on. And see what we can find. It's a steamy one today. It's probably close to 90 degrees. It's later in the afternoon, so we're heading into evening. It's going to stay warm all night. It's going to stay probably 75 this evening. So luckily there's a good breeze. So I'm hoping to find a spot along the water, someplace I can get a little bit of that breeze and get the hammock set up. So today's purpose really is just I got a new hammock. So in one of the last adventures there was a hole in the netting, and so after quite a few years of use I figured it was time to replace it. So anyway, we're going to hit the trail and see what we can find. Hopefully do a little fishing and make a little supper. See you in a bit. Not too far, bud. Don't go too fast. Dad's carrying all your food. And I have got a squeaky backpack today. That's the next item on my list of replacements is a new backpack. This one's seen a lot of use, and it's starting to show its wear and tear. I tend to carry a little heavier loads, so one of these days it's just going to pop at the seams. But it'll work for now. It's just going to make a little noise. I'm going to find some greens along the way here. Haven't seen any Smilex yet. Little Biden's Alba in the beginning, but since then I haven't seen much. So hopefully we'll find something. Looks promising. So the trail that we're on before winds through old Melaleuca fields, and the problem with that is there's no shade, and looked like for quite a while no water. This, however, low area here looks real promising. Need a shady spot for the hammock though. Looking pretty good here. What do you think, bud? Think this will work? Oh yeah, this is nice. Toasty. This is definitely the path less traveled. That's good. That's what we want. Not visible from the main road. That's good also. And a nice shady area right here. There's a couple trees. Might be a little close, but we can run it side to side. Or actually we can run it from this one over to that one. That'll work just fine. And it's nice and shady. And there is water close to here, actually fishable water too, so I think this is where we're going to make base. your bed, huh? Gotta have a bed for you, right? Yeah, I brought a bed for you. Of course I did. Even brought his own blanket for him. Look at that, huh? Living the high life out here. Oh, that's Doge's spot. Yeah, that's Doge's spot. That's a good boy, huh? You do not get my sleeping pad, though. Nope, sorry. Now tonight it's only supposed to get down to about probably 75 degrees. That's like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I mean it's going to be pretty warm. So what I'm hoping for, again, we've got a nice breeze. So I'm hoping as the sun drops down, we get a little shade here, a little even more shade. Get down into the higher 70s right after the sun sets, which is usually the case. That should be comfortable. So tonight I just brought this little guy, little world famous Sports. It says it goes down to 40 degrees. I can attest to the fact that it does not. At least not for me, and I consider myself well insulated. I have had this down, I've had it down to 50, and that was not comfortable. I could have made it, but actually one night I did make it. I think it was probably 49. But it was not the greatest night's sleep. Anytime the sleeping bag came off from around me, because they are very small, because they're very compact. So anytime the sleeping bag came off of me, I got that instant chill. Whereas my larger sleeping bag, it's just bigger, so you're not worried about that throughout the night. But now tonight, I'm not even going to want this thing most likely, unless they were wrong in their forecast. But I don't foresee that being the case. We've got storms rolling in tomorrow. Actually about 3 days of storms, so I'm hoping for some rain. That way we can do some mushroom hunting. It's really dry now, so we're not going to be doing any of that, unfortunately. I have upgraded my camping pillow. Again, very compact, very lightweight, but man, it makes a big difference. That's one of the goals here. I'm trying to get rid of some gear that I don't really need, and get rid of some weight. But I also want to upgrade the comfort level. And I'll tell you what, having a pillow makes a big difference. So I've just got an old pillowcase that I had in the closet and wrapped it around it. bed is set. I'm going to get some gear organized here and then get camp kind of set up and we'll go from there. Well, there's camp for the night. As long as we're left undisturbed, this place would be easily found. So we're taking a little bit of a chance, you know, with where the truck's parked and just how easy this would be. It's not that far off the main trail, so we'll see what happens. Worst case scenario, we get chased out, but we got some gear for dinner tonight. Got a top, the new hammock. It's a sun year. No idea the quality on this thing, but the price was right. It was about 50 bucks. It came with the straps. Does have the real fine bug netting, and of course my handy dandy top. And today we brought Dozer with. We're going to give it a try. I typically don't bring him on the overnights. I don't want to have to think about it. You know, I just worry about him and bugs and ants and, you know, but he is a dog, I guess, so he'd probably be just fine. Plus, he keeps an eye out for me. He has been on overnights with me, just not down here in Florida. You know, there's panther and red ants and all sorts of stuff down here that I worry about, but then I remind myself he is a dog. So one of the things when we set up the camp, kind of on the way in, and then once I get set up, you know, I brought in some, you know, some dried goods for dinner tonight, and I'm looking for some greens for it. Cocoa plums, of course, it's not the time of year for them, so they are not going to help us at all. It's pretty dry right now. Like I said, it hasn't rained. I mean, we had a really good rain a few days ago. The problem is it's been months and we hadn't had any, so that didn't do a whole lot for us. I did bring a heavier sleeping bag, but it was just kind of rolled up in my bedroll, and so it is here. I won't need it, but wow, there's some greens for us. That is a massive greenbrier. Look at the size of that thing. Look at that. It comes up out of the ground here. And then it runs up and splits to that shoot we looked at, and then it goes up over the tree into two more massive ones. That one right there, that's dang near enough greens for our dinner. So, alright, let's look around and see what else we can find. I always look at these anytime you see like palm trees or anything that's covered up in something. Really any type of tree, depending on where you're at. You know, look for those. Here's a greenbrier here. Now this, the animals have picked off the ends of it, so you can see right, where is it? Right there, and right there. Got nibbled. But there's some leaves on that. We can use the leaves. So I'm pretty confident with the greenbrier. The dinner I brought was wild forage bolete mushrooms and some pasta, and then some seasonings that I made myself. So we'll take a look at that later. Pretty dry. Well guys, I decided to get out and do a little fishing as long as the camp's all set up. Got a couple hours till sunset, so it seemed like a good opportunity to see if I could find a hungry fish. I've been kind of working along a canal here, and a lot of lily pads. I'm getting kind of a wider area now. Looks like it might be a little bit deeper than where I was. I haven't had much luck so far. One little sunfish, but it's a beautiful day and I'm fishing, so can't beat that. Dozer super excited. He loves fishing. Oh, oh, geez. Well, by God, look at there. Hey, 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 that's my fish. One Mayan cichlid. That boy's eater size. Dozer gets super excited when we fish, don't you, bud? You love fishing, don't you? You love fishing, don't you? See, I was paying attention to my bobber went down. I missed it. Missed him. No, you don't get to go get him. They're biting on my hook. They're biting on the hook, but I'm not catching them. Hey, get out of there. My fish. My fish. Just a little one. Just a little one, those. So exciting, isn't it? Is it so exciting? There we go. Ah, there we go. Not quite sure that one was. Look at that. Look at the colors. Very pretty, huh? That's what we're looking for. Nice size fish. Ooh, that's a nice one, bud. Oh, that's a nice one. All right, guys, look at that. Now that is what we're here for. Look at that beauty. Of course, he pooped on me. Isn't that a beaut, huh? That is a blue tilapia. Just a absolutely beautiful fish. That is one good tasting little fish. Really isn't even that little. It's absolutely beautiful out here, guys. I found a spot on the other shore. A lot of small fish. That big tilapia came right out in front here, just right off the edge. And actually one of the big Mayans did as well. I'm seeing some really big gar moving around. I had one right up to the shoreline before he got off, thankfully, because I'm not geared up for that. I couldn't get it on film because Dozer was giving me a hard time, but there was a deer that came up across the bank and got a drink real quietly. I just happened to see her head slide out to the water's edge, and then she pulled it back in. She was going to make her way this way. I was going to try to get a shot of her, but Dozer spooked her a little bit. So maybe as it gets closer to dark, we'll see some more. This is some of the only water around here, so I imagine there'll be plenty of animals trying to come for an evening drink and an evening bath. There's quite a few gar through here, and I've seen some really nice size ones. So I think maybe the next time I come down here, I'll bring the fishing boat and give that a try. So for now, we'll stick with the hook and line. Apparently the little ones have moved to this side. So I'm just using artificial baits. I'm using these little rubber worms. They're just gulp alives. They work really well. The Mayans, tilapia, the gar are movement fish, so if you drag one across, they'll grab onto it. I think I'm going to give it maybe 1 or 2 more casts, and then the sun's starting to drop, so it'll be time to start getting ready for dinner. One last cast. Then we'll go. Right? Drop. I know. I'm a big meanie. Big meanie. I know. But you'll hit me with it, or the camera. Well, I think that's it. We're going to go ahead and call it. Sun's starting to dip. Temperatures are dropping. Easing back, let's call it. Got a couple beautiful fish, so I've caught several small ones. I caught one really nice Mayan cichlid, and that blue tilapia, which was just a beautiful fish, and just a gorgeous night. So we're gonna go get situated and relax a little bit. I'll give you a pan of this. So this is where we've been fishing. Absolutely beautiful. All by ourselves. Now we are really close to the main road, and throughout the evening you may actually be able to hear it. I actually can hear it right now. And well, you get somebody who hits the hammer on the gas, you can really hear it. So we're not far from the main road. But beautiful night. Time to get moving on. I want to pick a few greens on the way back, and then get ready for supper. I heard a four-wheeler earlier, but he didn't come around, so that's good news. Ooh, greenbrier. Tell the greenbrier. You can see that. It's got teeth. I don't want to bite you. Smilex doesn't have teeth. A little bit more friendly dinner. What did you hear me say? Dinner? You want some dinner? Yeah, dinner. Oh, want some supper? Yeah. Interesting. A few mosquitoes coming out. That surprises me considering how dry it's been. Alright guys, as is always the case, we want to check out our campsite and make sure that it's not visible. So we are back in there. I think I can see the very top of the canvas, or of the tarp. However, I mean, it just literally looks like the woods. I just think I see something a little different. And, but you absolutely cannot see it if you didn't know that it was there. This is the trail coming in. Yeah, that was definitely the tarp. Even from here, if you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't really pay any attention to it. You really got to get up onto this trail before you see it. And this trail is it's not the main trail, so it's not really used. Occasionally, maybe a horseback rider will come through here. We could see an evening horseback rider. I find it unlikely because it's so warm. You know, again, it's still somewhere between 85 and 90 degrees. And you're just not going to see anybody out riding their horses today. So, all right. Well, we're going to get a little supper going here. Ooh, Dozer heard the word supper, didn't you, bud? Oh, he's excited about supper. That was a nice night. Caught some fish. Foraged a little bit. Scared the crap out of me. Heat up a little water here. Alright, water's heating up. So dinner tonight, that is pasta and wild foraged bolete mushrooms. Forested here locally, actually, and then dried. Nice big chunk. With that, we've got a seasoning, homemade seasoning made out of dried seaweed and a dried moringa root. So that should be interesting. It'll have a salty, peppery flavor, a little bit of almost horseradish flavor to it. So it should be good. We're going to mix that with our greens. Wait for that to heat out and we'll be good. Alright. That added in. Got a little bit bigger pan this time. The little one worked for us last time, but hoping it doesn't topple over. So they're dehydrated mushrooms, so we're going to want to let them sit for a while. Right now I'm just heating up the water, and we'll let them kind of slow cook. I'll turn the heat down a little bit. But I'll tell you what, with these little gas fuel stoves, it doesn't take long to get the heat cranked up. I'll just go ahead and add our foraged greens. It's an absolutely beautiful night out here, guys. I would say that once that sun dipped, that temperature dropped very quickly. I'd say it's low 80s. The humidity is pretty much gone at this point. ease that down just a hair. Finely cut fish, cut into small chunks. Which don't seem to want to come out of the bag. There we go. So I'll definitely have to be policing up my camp tonight with the smell of fish in it. Dozer will have company, won't you, buddy? So we've got wild foraged greens, finely chopped fish. Boy, I can't talk. Must be past happy hour. And mushrooms that were dried. I actually foraged these last summer. It's the last of a batch. Kind of making a fish stew. Should be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if we have any game come through here, or try to at night. Those will keep them away, but the main trail is that way, and this is just a little side branch off of it. But it runs a little bit closer to the water, so I'm kind of wondering if the game tends to go through this path, but I guess we'll find out. This is going to slow cook for a while, so I'm going to kind of pick things up and get Dozer's dinner ready and bring you back in. All right, man, I'm getting tired. It was a busy day. That heat really takes it out of you too, so I've got a little dinner here, and then I brought a little treat for this evening, a little happy hour. So the dinner is wild foraged mushrooms that were dehydrated and rehydrated tonight. Fish, greens, and then the noodles. I just had some leftover, like some really thick noodles for like lasagna. We made lasagna and there was just a few left. What do you do with them? So I broke them up into pieces and thought they'd work good for this. They're really hearty. Makes a nice addition to the stew. The seasoning again was seaweed that I dried and ground up, and then also moringa root that I dried and ground up with some black pepper and garlic and some onion powder. Man, is that good. Let's try a piece of that fish. Yeah, excellent. I love these bolete mushrooms. They're thick and meaty. If you get them fresh, cook them in pieces that big. Cook them up with some steak tips. They're chewy. They're just super, super good. So I caught probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 fish altogether today. And the temperature has come down a lot. It is really, really comfortable right now. And so I'm really, really glad about that. Humidity has dropped. It's pretty much gone. It's super quiet. The main road is quieting down a little bit. I'm going to finish up this dinner, and then I'm going to have my happy hour, and it'll be time to kind of police things up and get it tucked away for the evening. Get Dozer fed, and get his bed set up. Like I said, this is the first Florida trip with him, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But he'll definitely keep the critters away, won't you, bud? Yeah, drop. You don't need a stick. All right, I'm going to get to dinner. I'll bring you back for happy hour. Nice. Good dinner. That was really tasty. I'm really happy with how that seasoning turned out. Whenever you mix those types of things together, it's just really hard to say how they're going to come about. And once you mix them all together, no real turning back. So it was fun to make it. The moringa root was, I I really liked it. It has a very strong flavor. And of course, they grow the moringa on my patio. The seaweed I found at the local beaches. We actually got out in the water and found some good stuff and brought it home, washed it really good, dried it out, and just ground it up into a seasoning. And then so I mixed those two. That seaweed has a real salty flavor, and then the moringa has a real almost horseradishy flavor, peppery flavor. So the combo worked really well. And those bolete mushrooms, man, they're just a great add to a stew like that. So now that my belly's full and I'm getting super relaxed, sun's going down, critters are starting to move. It's time for a little happy hour. So this is homemade cider. So I started this with grapes, just store-bought grapes. Made a little bit of a yeast starter with it. And then I added in some peach to this one, and just for some flavoring. And I just let it ferment for, I don't know, 5 or 6 days maybe. Not real long. It's not real strong. You know, it's probably 3.5%, 4%. And of course mine's a little stronger because when I put it in the bottle I may or may not have added some tropical vodka to it. One may never know. So again, it's a homemade fermented cider, fermented from, I don't know if you can hear that. I mentioned earlier you'd hear the cars, but you can definitely hear them from camp here tonight. A lot closer to town. I heard some people talking. Right across the water from us is the main hiking trails, and the water is very narrow. But anyway, again, a wild fermented cider, just fermented, a fermentation starter. Usually I use store-bought grapes, and then, you know, flavor it with whatever you want. It's pretty tricky to get them to come out. They tend to be a little bit challenging. This one didn't turn out too bad. It's got a nice flavor to it. It's got a little bite to it. It's actually fairly strong by itself. I said 3.5 to 4%, but now I'm thinking when I tested it, I remember it having a little more kick to that. So who knows what it has. I don't measure it, I just make them. Because I was only bringing the one, I use it as a mixer. And so I just added I had some pineapple vodka that I just added maybe a shot to it. So one and done. I love the evening. No, we're not playing stick. He's got supper in his belly. Now he wants to play games. Well, as you can see, it's starting to get dark. Beautiful night. So I think it's time for me to kick back in the hammock and finish my happy hour. And maybe do a little editing, and then it'll be time to get some sleep. Back up in the morning, as long as nobody chases me out of here tonight. I've got breakfast planned. I think scrambled eggs are in order, so that should be good. This is gonna go chew on a stick by himself. Well, guys, it's been fun. It's getting dark. I'm gonna get to sleep. I'll see you in the morning. Well, good morning, guys. It's about 10 a.m. As you can see, I'm all cleaned up. And it was an interesting night last night in the hammock. And about midnight, we had to make a command decision. And so the day and the night were awesome. Caught some fish, didn't we, bud? Yeah, went fishing, yeah. And enjoyed a beautiful dinner, and the evening was amazing. It was absolutely gorgeous. A lot of birds, and you know, there's water nearby, so you get a lot of varying sounds. and got started a little bit by a great big owl that landed right above us, and right in the tree above us, and let out a big hoot about 11 o'clock, and you know, and all that quiet, boom, that just echoed through. So it was about 12 o'clock when the storms came in. Now the storms were not supposed to come in till today, and ironically, so far this morning they have not been here, although it does look like it might. It's blowing pretty good. It's completely overcast. It feels like it's going to do something. So about midnight last night, the storms came in. Now, when I set up camp, when I originally came out, I wasn't even sure that I was going to do it. Ended up deciding to do it last minute, and so I set up a temporary, you know, not a real storm-worthy setup, and you know, kind of expecting, like I said, everything to come in today. And of course, that was a rookie move. It blew in last night, so it's about midnight, and the first deluge is over. I've completely drained the tarp because the tarp wasn't angled well to hold water, or well, to shed water. It was angled very well to hold water. So I had reset the tarp, and decided, you know, at that point that I had to make a decision. Was I set up to handle a heavy storm? And I had a gut feeling that I should break it down. You know, that's one of the great things about doing these stealth camps if you're close to home. You don't have to be out there if you don't want. In a normal hike-in and camp situation, I could have reset up that camp, reset up the tarps, and I have withstood pretty heavy thunderstorms with wind and lightning. But last night, again, when I left, it was half-hearted, last minute, and so I made a command decision to pull camp in between rains and head out. Again, just kind of going on my gut. I had a gut feeling that I should do that. When I got back, Dozer and I had to park a little ways away from the house and walk over. And just as we started to walk, Dozer had a seizure. And so it's 1 o'clock in the morning, it's dark, and my dog is having a full seizure. He gets them not very often, very seldomly, but when they do, they're kind of full body. And so I end up carrying him a good chunk of the way back to the house, and then it passed, and he's fine. He's fine today. Doze, you fine today? Come here, bud. Come here. Sit. Are you fine today? Yeah, he's fine today. Fine last night. He slept close to Dad though last night, just to make sure. But yeah, he was fine after that. I think what happens is he overheats himself, and I guess that's my guess. I don't know for sure. So anyway, so obviously not at camp this morning. Didn't end it quite the way I anticipated, but that's okay. A couple rookie mistakes that I made. I talked about this in a previous video. Always set up for the worst, and then you're comfortable for the best. Because of my half-heartedness and in a hurry, I didn't set that tarp up to withstand storms. I just slapped it up with the expectation that I was going to leave early and be out before the storms hit. Things rarely go the way that you expect, and that's a rookie mistake. Always set up for the worst, and then you're super comfortable for the best. Always go with your gut. The seizure happening here close to home, and then being able to stay here at home, that made me feel a lot better. So I had a gut feeling it was time to leave. Went with that feeling. It was a good thing that I did. Now, if I had decided to stay, I could have reset the camp. So there's two ways I could have done it. I could have found two larger trees. The problem with the area that I was in is there aren't many trees. It's all old melaleuca. It's very open. The spot that I chose to camp was one of the few spots with good trees. So I had smaller trees that I was using. So with that in mind, what could I have done? What I could have done is dropped the whole setup down. And so when I got in the hammock, that bowed the trees in. That's one of the issues I was having with the tarp. Now, I raised it up, and that compensated in good conditions. That took care of it. However, when it rained, the rain added to that bowing effect, and it cooled up. So how could I fix that? The easiest solution would have been to drop the hammock down. Now, this is a hammock with a full bug net. I don't necessarily want it on the ground, but it could be on the ground. Now, what you could do is drop it down so that you weren't, so that it was barely, with you in it, it was barely touching the ground, or a little bit of pressure on the ground, but just a little bit. That way you're not, your whole body, you're still getting the hammock effect. But that would have dropped the ropes down, okay, and then you could tighten them up. That would have dropped the ropes down more to the base of the tree, which has a lot less bend. The higher up, the more bend, the lower, the less bend. And so I could have lowered that down. Yeah, you're welcome. I could have lowered that down. That would have taken care of that bend. I could have raised the tarp up above it. It came down with a V, almost like a shelter style V. And that would have withstood any of the rain or wind that I would have experienced. We would have been dry. The only reason I didn't do that last night is by the time I adjusted everything, I was wet. And again, I had this gut feeling that something wasn't going to go right. So based on the gut, I pulled out. But if I had been hiking in, that would have been the solution. Drop the hammock, because again, no large trees around. Drop the hammock, drop the tarp, go with almost a tent style shelter. I'd have been fine. Fortunately, I decided to not do that, and then I could take care of Dozer. So again, advantage to the stealth camping. I was undisturbed last night by people. I did hear some people moving around. The truck was fine. Nobody bothered that in the area that I had to park. So that ended up well, or ended up good. The nice thing about the sand, the trail was mostly sand. I was able to hike out halfway without even using my light. That sand just lights up at night. So now this morning, I'm going to eat those scrambled eggs that I had made for the camp. That was super simple. I just took a small plastic container with a snap lock on it. I just mixed a couple eggs into it, some greens, some cheese, some onions, and I would have cooked that right on my stove in the pan. And of course, Dozer would have had giblets. That's what he'd have had. Yeah. So I'm going to do that this morning. Eat that there, and then got some patio garden work to do. The beautiful bride is home today. This is one of the only days off that we have together. That's why I was going to bail out early. So hopefully spend a little bit of that. Maybe go get some Cuban coffee versus campfire coffee. So although it wasn't the trip I had planned, there are some perks to being home. So anyway, last night was awesome. Glad you guys joined me. Sorry I couldn't finish in the woods, but glad that I pulled the camp and came back in so I could take care of this guy. Right? Got to have him ready to go for the next trip, right? Yeah, yep. Anyway, you guys have a great day. Enjoy the time, and the next time I see you, we'll be doing something wild.